Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this live session. And it's a privilege to have you guys on board this evening. And foremost, for those that have not met me before, very shortly, I'm going to be introducing myself. We don't have time, so I won't be waiting for anyone at all. We only have 2 hours, and definitely you are aware that 2 hours is too small for us to cover a lot of ground. Now, the first thing is, one of the major things that we do here is to ensure that we help one another. Gain is secondary. Our primary aim is to ensure that everybody come here and get value. One of the questions that I've been hearing severally from people is the fact that, am I going to get value for the cash? The truth of the matter remains that for those that have had personal contact with me before now, you will be aware that there are several things that I can do even for free, which includes passing knowledge to people. However, we've done that in time past, and we just feel it's very important and expedient that individuals make commitment, no matter how small. And that's the essence of this particular training. And I wanted to see it as a long-term journey. It is never a sprint, it is actually a marathon, because a large number of us, we are where we are today because we've actually existed before now. For those that have joined one of our sessions before, one of the major things that we hold in high esteem in this, on this platform is grit, resilience, and discipline. Without all of these things, I tell you, it will be difficult for us to get along on this journey. Data analytics is a field that is broad, and it's not a field that we can actually, achieve what we need to achieve within a few weeks. So you need to be consistent, you need to be resilient, you need to be persistent for you to get the kind of result that you want to get. So please, I want to appeal to you that as much as we can, we are going to help one another. As much as we can, you will get more than enough value for your money. And after all, I can tell you that whatever you are being asked to commit is actually a tip of the iceberg compared to what we get eventually. I don't want to be talking about the kind of things that we've been able to do on this journey before now, but I want to assure you that for those that will actually stay on track, you will get returns. Return on investment is something that I can assure you, if only you will stay on track. Several of us started this journey together. Not everybody is still on track. Some have actually, diversified into something else, maybe profitable in a sense. Some they wish they actually stayed, on this track. So I want to appeal to you, no matter how tough it is, when they go and get tough, it's only the tough that will get blessed. So quickly, without further ado, let's dive into the reason why we are here. We are not here for. I'm not a preacher of a lot of talk. People that knows me, I don't like too much of talk. Straight to the point. If I'm teaching, let me get straight to the point and let me get the result I want to get. No time for a lot of jamborees. And so we get started as soon as possible. Now I'm going to be sharing my screen now.
Hi, how are you? How are you?
In case there's any issue, you can always drop a comment in the chat box and I'll respond to it. And in the process of trying to explain certain things, if there's any issue or a question, you can just raise your digital hand or you drop it in the chat box. So let me share my screen quickly. Okay. 1 minute, please. All right. So before I proceed, let me unmute you so that I can get response. Let me unmute you so that I can get response. Okay. All right. So confirm that you can see my screen. Somebody should confirm that you can see my screen, please.
Yeah, we can see it.
I can.
All right, thank you very much. Now, quickly, let me give us like an overview of what we are going to be achieving or what we are going to be doing in these 5 weeks. And our focus generally is on Excel and Power BI for now. Somebody put a call through today and he was curious about not having the knowledge of coding, mathematics, aptitude for quantitative reasoning, all of those things before now. So his question was, is that going to be a disadvantage? The answer is no. The answer is no. And that's why at this stage, we are not going to dive into a lot of querying and a lot of coding. Most of the things that we're going to be doing is just click and drop. So once you know what you want to do, go to where you need to get what you need to get done, then you are good. So if you are in that category, you feel you don't really have a good background or you don't really like mathematics as the case may be, I can tell you that at this stage, you might actually not need too much of mathematics as the case may be. So all we are going to be doing is just click and drop. So we're focusing on Excel and Power BI for now. And I want to tell you that Excel as it is, 90% of people that claim to know Excel, they actually know a fraction of what Excel can do. If you find yourself in an organization where you have repetitive tasks to do, Excel is a kind of tool that can help you automate some tasks to a certain extent so that you don't have to be doing them time and again. So just an overview, we are going to be using Google Classroom. For those of us that have had course to use this platform before, it's an amazing platform. And what are we going to be doing in Google Classroom? If you've completed registration, of course, you must have been invited to join the classroom, and I can see a large number of us there already. So what we're going to be doing on the classroom is a platform where we track progress of one another. At the end of this course, one thing that will give us joy is that you have a very rich portfolio that you can always say that, yes, I'm proud of my journey. From there, you can get on your way. So at the end of the day, we want to be able to track our progress, and that's why we have this Google Classroom. I will be showing us around what we need to do in Google Classroom for those that have not used it before. That is a platform where you get to download the material for the week. You also get to submit assignments. You also get to get your feedback from the submitted assignments. So we have instructors that will be helping us to grade all of those assignments, and on weekly basis you get to see the result of whatever assignment is being done. So we have a project that will span through the 5 weeks, but we have broken it down into weekly basis. So you have assignment to be submitted on weekly basis, and as we have our assignment for this week, every assignment will be due on Wednesdays. And when I mean Wednesday, not the coming Wednesday after the previous weekend, that will be the Wednesday that follows. That means you have 2 Wednesdays after the weekend. So all assignments will be due on Wednesday. And to submit the assignment, all you need to do is go on Google Classroom, do the needful, then you'll be able to take it up from there. And for the course project, we are also working on a reward plan for those that will be outstanding. Personally, I've been, I've been able to benefit from things like this. Every course that we've done in this field, there's always a project, and the projects actually form part of our portfolio eventually. So project is for 5 weeks, don't forget, and also we are broken it down into weekly basis, which you will go to a Google Classroom to complete the submission. And finally, our communication platform remains the same: WhatsApp, email, LinkedIn, and Telegram. At the end of this program, I've seen some of us that our LinkedIn followership is less than 50, so to say. One thing I want to also achieve is we want to achieve growing together as one body. So we are going to be encouraging one another by following one another. By following one another, you will see what other people are doing, and also you can also tailor it to suit whatever you need to do. Okay, so from there, let me take us to Google Classroom quickly. Google Classroom. So I'll just show us around Google Classroom so that we understand what we are doing there. I don't know why. Sorry, let me attend to this, but I don't know why some people are still requesting how they can get to the classroom when we've started already. Okay, let's go ahead. So here is Google Classroom. So if you have accepted the invitation to Google Classroom, you will see something like this. All classwork, you see it under classwork. Then if you navigate to people, you see people that are in this classroom. You also see the teachers too. Now, every classwork will be under classwork. And there's a way we program classwork such that it will drop when we want it to drop. For instance, we have data set that we've posted already. And if you're in if you're on your Google Classroom platform, by now you should be able to see it. However, the assignment and the project for the week has also been posted, but you won't get to see them until on Sunday. So once those files have been dropped and it has gotten to the time that we schedule it to, for you to see it, then you can access those files. And after accessing the file, you can view your work from there. So once you view your work, you go exactly to, this is because nothing has been dropped yet. So once you see it, you can, from this classwork tab, that is where you do your submission. Click on the assignment you want to submit, attach the file you want to attach, and that is it. Then you can click on submit. From our end, we'll be able to see from our end. And also, if you have any issue, you can come to this stream tab, drop anything there, information, you want to ask a question or something, just type it and drop it there. We also see from our end and we can respond accordingly. And also, we are going to be having a peer, pairing with our peers. So it's possible that we pair you with an individual to review what you've done. Maybe you've designed a dashboard, somebody can review it and give you a feedback from there. And you also be graded for that. So that's just it. We don't have much time. Let me continue with the presentation. Just 1 minute. I don't know why. Give me 1 minute, please. Let me attend to these people finding we got to come in. So let me attend to these people trying to follow. Let me just attend to that, please. All right. And let me quickly say this before I continue. In this community, one thing that personally I'm not going to give chances to is lackadaisical attitude. That's just the truth. Now, for those that all of us that are here, we got information via our mail. For some deliberately or for one reason or the other, they didn't check their mail for those links. Now they're having issue coming in. And if you're going to get anywhere on this journey we're talking about, discipline, resilience, grit, and commitment. Those are the things that we need to be able to get along. So let's continue so that those ones don't distract us. Back to my PowerPoint 5. Okay. So that's just an overview on the Google Classroom and our projects. So the first thing, what do we think data analytics is? And what are the importance of data analytics? I'll just give us a quick breakdown. No time for too much of talk. Data analytics is all about collection of data, manipulation of data, which we also refer to as data wrangling. What that means is that that's where you try to, turn the data into a kind of form that will be suitable for your analysis. And when you are doing data wrangling, we tend to undo missing data, tend to undo, a lot of data that are not in the right form that is suitable for your analysis. So data analytics is basically collection of data, manipulation of data or data wrangling to suit what you want to do. Then analysis of the data to get the kind of result that you want to get. So analysis is actually, aimed at getting a kind of result. It could be for predicting the future. It could be for managing trend, monitoring trend. Those are the things that we do as a data analyst. So if you are looking at data analytics, data science, data engineering, and all of those things, they are similar, but we're not going into all of those things now. We've done that before. But the major thing now is if you want to dive into data analytics, you do basically a few things. And by the time we look at the importance of data analytics in business, you understand what the role is all about. Number one, collection of data, which you may not necessarily be the best that will collect the data. So what it all entails is collection of data, one. Number two, manipulation or cleaning of data. We'll call it data cleansing. You remove unwanted data, you remove missing values, you remove errors and all of those things. Then you can now dive into the analysis proper. And when you are diving into the analysis proper, that means you are ready to get insight from your data. Data without insight is actually nothing to write home about. So insight is our goal. What is the insight you are deriving? What is the trend? What is actually, what is it that you can actually say that will come up in the nearest future? So what are the importance of data analysis in business? One, informed decision making. It is not guesswork now. When you have data, you can actually make informed decision. So in this case, it's quite unfortunate that a lot of us, we have data, but we are not making judicious use of the data. But if you understand what it means to have data and to make use of it, then you should not be caught up in the web of improper decision making. So informed decision making, not guesswork now. Going straight to the point, by the virtue of the fact that this data is saying this, then I can decide that this is actually the outcome that I will see. So it reduces reliance on guesswork and intuition. Your intuition can fail you sometimes, but when you come up with data, I tell you that at that top management position, those management staff, they don't actually have time to start looking at a lot of figures. What they want is they want you to tell them what they should hear, so that it can affect their decision making, because they are there to make decisions. So they don't want to start guessing or start using intuition. But with data, you can reduce reliance on guesswork and intuition. You can analyze historical data. Business can check trends. You can see the trend of sales, for example, in the sales company. You can see the trends of purchase, for example, in e-commerce company. So you can check trend with data analysis. It's also, it improves efficiency and productivity. There are times that you get to a workplace, some will deliberately loop around, some will not do what they're supposed to do. But if you are somebody that understands data, I can, for example, now in a sales company, I can decide to measure the time between loading some product to be delivered and the time it takes to get to the customer. Now, when I look at the difference between the time, I can begin to analyze over a period of time that if there's a time lag, then the time margin should be this wide. So it actually helps also improve efficiency and productivity. So by the time I look at it, then I know that somebody somewhere is not that efficient. That's what data can give to you. I can measure the time difference between two things. And when I look at it over a period of time, I can always tell when somebody is not doing what he or she is meant to do. I want to run through this because I want us to dive into the real business. Then also you can predict a lot of things. Demand, I can look at it. Okay, for example, I'm a salesperson. I'm using sales because it's a common thing. I'm a salesperson. I can use data to predict demand. If in the last 6 months, over a period of 5 years, these products have been selling the most in December, I have statistical reason to believe that in the next 5 years, this product should be produced the most so that we meet such demand. That's what data can give you. So it actually helps efficiency, and for productivity, those ones producing, we also know that if this is the product that is mostly demanded, then we should scale up our production phase. Then resource allocation, so it can be utilized and underutilized. So I can also use data to manage all of those things. Also, like I mentioned, data can be automated. So we see automated opportunities. If we see repetitive tasks, we can use data analytics to automate all of those things. Then, what are the importance of, we continue, it enhances customer experience. I don't need to stress on this too much. Customer experience, we can give out questionnaires to customer. Then by the time we get back those questionnaires, we analyze the data and get a kind of feedback. There was a time that somebody was working on a particular project and he needed a questionnaire. So I decided to sit down and design that questionnaire for him. So somehow he was able to get back, the questionnaire to me. The next thing that we need to do is to code the questionnaire because it's in raw form now. So I need to now code it in a language that the software will understand and eventually analyze the response from people. So that's what data can also give to us. Also, it helps you to gain competitive advantage. What does this mean? You will be ahead of others because while others are relying on intuition and guesswork, you are actually making informed decision based on data. So that's what data can give to you. Others are busy, making decision based on guesswork, their intuition, their head knowledge, or you have fact and figure, and you can make decision based on that. So you will be ahead of them. You already know the trend, so you can actually predict the future in the first place eventually. Also, risk management. It can also help you in optimizing marketing strategies. It can, financial performance and forecasting. We mentioned it before. Forecasting means you are predicting the future. Quick, let me go to, I don't have time for this. Let me go to data lifecycle. What do you do as a data analyst? What is the data lifecycle? Number one, data generation and collection. Give me 1 minute, please. This is, they want to steal our time. Oh, 1 minute, please. Let me attend to them, please. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so data lifecycle, it has to do with, it's confirmed that you can hear me so that I'll be sure that I'm not speaking to myself.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right, thank you. So data lifecycle, the first thing that you do when it comes to data analytics and data analysis is first generation of data. The last meeting we had online, we were able to differentiate between a data scientist, a data engineer, a data analyst. And one of those things that we mentioned was that generally a data engineer will design data architecture, and data architecture has to do with how data is collected. I've had calls to work with a kind of data recently, and I was trying to import that data into the software. I was getting error message, and that was because the data that I got was not actually in the right format. There were a lot of missing values and a lot of those things. So I have to find a way of, making it, look the way I want it to look so I can get the kind of result I want. So the first thing is data generation. You might not be the one that will generate the data or collect the data, but what you do eventually is you get the data and you clean it up, use it for the purpose that is intended. So it's possible that the form or the format of that data that you will get from the data engineer or whoever is starting the process might not be the correct one, but that does not mean that it will impede your own work. You can still go ahead and do the next. So the first thing is data generation and collection. So it can be from various sources. We can use structured and unstructured data. In analysis, we can get data from, we can analyze pictorial data, we can analyze data from social media, from website, from anywhere, depending on what we want to achieve. But the major thing is get the data in the right format. So data generation and collection, data storage. Of course, you need to be able to. There are several platforms that you can store your data. You can store it on the cloud, and that's more or less the most, the platform where you get the most safety. If you save data on local drive can crash. But when you save it on the cloud, Google Drive. There are a lot of cloud storage spaces that we have. So if you save it on the cloud, you are sure that your data is secure and most likely nothing else. So the next thing is data storage. After collect data, store the data, and you know, the database can be anything. It could be anywhere, but ensure that it is actually a safe location. The next thing is you start processing your data. Data processing involve, bringing the data into the software, cleaning up the data. You remove missing values, remove unwanted syntaxes and all of those things. Get it in the form that you want it, the structure you want it. Because, for instance, if I'm working in SPSS, the kind of structure that is required for some analysis will be different from if I'm working in Power BI, for example, or if I'm working in Tableau. So the structure might be different. So the major thing is, what do I want to achieve? Where do I want to achieve it? And how do I want my data to be structured? And again, the coding in SPSS is different from the coding in other platforms. So it cannot, many a time, it might not be, the same format. So the next thing is data processing. You clean up the raw data, transform it. Sometimes we start talking about data not being normally distributed, so you cannot get some analysis done. So because of that, you need to transform to a kind of format that you'll be able to achieve what you need to do. Then the next thing that you do is data analysis. You can do a lot of things there. By the time I close this particular session, then we'll go to the Excel so that we can start work proper. I'll also be sharing with you the 4 types of analysis that you can do. The 4 stages of data analysis. And the first stage is descriptive analysis. You can also do diagnostic analysis, also predictive analytics. To see, your report, and in just one glance, they can actually understand what the trend looks like and what they should expect in the future. So visualization is where your expertise can actually be seen. That's where they will see that yes, this is what you can offer. And once they see it at one glance, they want to have minimal headache by looking at a lot of figure. There's some data that they must find up to like 5,000 data sets, up to like 1 million data sets. So they don't have time to start looking at those things. But by just looking at visuals and your report, you should be able to grab whatever insight is behind such a data. So then you can now share the data after visualization, and you can share the data, share the report, and all of those things. There are several platforms, and by the time you get to this stage, as a data analyst, at least your job is almost done. Then after sharing data, you can archive. If you feel like this data set, I'm done with this data set, I don't need it again now, though I might need it in the nearest future, then you can archive it so that anytime you need it, you will call it up again and you can reuse. But if you feel you don't need it anymore, the next thing is to destroy the data and dispose it, because now the job is done. I've gotten the insight that I want, so I don't need data again, I can discard it. And finally, there are 4 categories of data analysis. The first one is descriptive analytics. The first thing you need to do as a data analyst is, what is the trend? What is the trend? So that is descriptive analytics. So if I see data, okay, what is the insight behind this data? So the first thing I want to do is I want to describe what exactly. So your job as a data analyst is categorized into these 4. Aside these 4, other ones are just additional, but the major one is these 4 that we're talking about. So the first thing is descriptive analytics. Descriptive analytics can entail graphs. It can entail, graphs like bar charts, graphs like different kind of graphs. Excuse me. Okay. So it can entail anything. So the first thing is you describe what exactly is the insight behind that data. So what has happened? That's what this analysis is talking about. Okay, I have a data for sales. I have a data for weather condition. I can decide to analyze, the effect of adverse weather on individuals. I can decide to analyze the aftermath of, or the effect of COVID-19, the impact of COVID-19 on individuals' jobs and the way they react to work environment. We can analyze all of this. So the first thing is that data analysis, what has happened? So that's description. So, and how do you describe it? Charts, majorly. You can use interactive, tables such as pivot table and all of those things, describing what exactly has happened. But if I see a scatter diagram, as we will see later, I can actually say that from this scatter diagram, this is actually what has happened. So the first thing is what has happened. Then the next thing is diagnostic analytics. This one is talking about, okay, why did this thing happen? If the trend is saying that over a period of time, the sales have been rising, most especially towards the end of the year, then as an analyst, the next question should be, why is it that towards the end of the year, they tend to make more sales? Then so many questions could come up. You can decide to give out questionnaires and all of those things. And when you do that, you begin to get insight from people. Why do you think people buy more during this period? That is diagnostic analytics. So why did it happen? It looks deeper into data to identify reasons for outcomes. So it's not just you telling us this is the trend, this is what has happened. The next question is, why did what happen? Why did it happen? So if you are able to, many times the answer might not come directly from you alone, but the ability that you have as a data analyst is to be able to probe into every situation based on facts and figure. And guess what? Data is everywhere. And with data, you can actually argue. Nobody argues with data. Once they see the data and you can show them that by the virtue of this data, and you can prove beyond reasonable that this thing has happened more than once. Because we believe that for anything to become a trend, it must have happened more than once. You can hear me now.
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So those are the few ones. Let me see if they can. Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir. So I want to know if it's from my end. I've been off for quite a minute.
Okay. No problem. The network actually, logged me off. So I had to switch my network.
Okay. Okay.
I think we are good now. And let me address for some that were claiming that they could not access the room. One of the reasons why some of them might be having issues because number one, they decided late that they are going to join this meeting. Up to this morning, some are still trying to find their way. And however, even with that, the link to this meeting room was still shared. But in case some of them are still having issue, I think it's actually from their end. Okay, so let's just go ahead. All right. Sorry about that little breach. Okay. So finally on this end, let me quickly run through the 4 kinds of analytics that we should expect. The first one is descriptive analytics, which we mentioned, and now we're talking about predictive. Let me put it on slideshow. Okay. To confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. All right. So finally, on this note, apart from just describing what has happened, why it happened, what is likely going to happen in the future, then the last thing that you need to do is prescribe. We know what prescription is all about. Some of us are in medical field. The good part is that data is everywhere. In medical field is also, very, very important aspect. So if you understand how to leverage on data, you can also actually channel it to any field. I've had course to analyze data in medical field, in engineering, in science, even in arts. So depending on what you want to do, everywhere you can actually get data to analyze. So the next thing and the last thing that you need to do is prescribe, and that is talking about what are the action plans, what should happen. Okay, in case this trend is not favorable enough, then you suggest what are the things that should be done. So at that level, at the top, they can actually decide on what exactly needs to be done. So we are going to be looking at a case study, Amazon. This is a case study that we got from the internet. In 2020, they observed that at some point, there was a spike in the sales of home office equipment due to the rise in remote work. So now, the first thing is what actually happened. They were able to describe, okay, this is actually what has happened. There's a rise in the sales of home equipment just over a period of, let's say, a few months. So they were able to, based on chart, they were able to spot out what has happened. That was description. So with the chart, you can see that the trend is always rising. And so apart from that, this is also a scatter plot. For somebody to understand data, when I see that a scatter plot like this, you observe that there are some points that are streamlined. They're around the line of best fits.
Please, I'm not seeing your screen. Because like you're showing a plot and all that. So I'm not seeing anything. I'm only seeing your face.
Exactly. I wanted to
Really?
say that too. Yeah. Your screen is not shown to
Your
us.
screen is
Only
not
your
showing.
face.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So confirm you can see my screen now.
No, we cannot see it. Okay, yeah. It's coming up now.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So here is a chart from Amazon's web page. Of course, you can see the trend from here. And somebody that sees this chart, we know that this is always rising. And if I see a scatter plot, the other one is called a scatter plot, the second one. If I see a scatter plot of this nature, I can always say that looking at this line of best fit, there are points that, like this point where you have employee, is far away from this line of best fit. This also is far away. We call them outliers. Then, looking at this as an analyst, I can say that, okay, something is wrong. Why is it that these two individuals, these two employees, they are in a world of their own, meaning that something is wrong? Then I can begin to investigate. So the first thing is, what has happened? So now we know that yes, the trend is there's a spike in the cost of, in the purchase of some specific equipment. And after just observing that spike, you will not stop there as an analyst. And with this scatter plot, I can also see that, okay, this one is not doing well. It's not symmetric compared to that ones. What exactly is the problem? Then from there, we can now go to the next one. Why did it happen? Then they were able to come to conclusion that the reason why that happened was because of COVID-19. They observed that people had to work remotely from home. And because they were working remotely from home, they needed some of those gadgets. And that was the reason for the spike in the purchase. So that was clear enough why it happened. Then they didn't stop there. They also went ahead and also predict what is likely going to happen. So now we're going to be diving into analysis proper. All of those things was just an overview of what to expect as an analyst. So now we're going to be diving into analysis proper. Like I said, when we started, all the data that we need will be gotten from Google Classroom. So the first thing that we expected is we get, before any class, we get data from Google Classroom, because that's what we're going to be using for our analysis. It's a live session and there won't be need for us talking too much. So now, let me just switch to my Excel workbook. Okay. 1 minute. Okay. So here we are. Now here is the data. Please, we need to pay attention because everything that we're going to be doing is sequential. So if you miss this stage, you might find it difficult to get along later on. So that's why we need to pay very rapt attention. Some of us, we have a little background on how to navigate around the Excel. Excel will also take us to, Power BI, because many times we import data from Excel as Excel file or as CSV file to Power BI before we can start our analysis. Now here is the data. We can call it anything we want to call it, but we have a column from ID, we have a column for name, we have department, age, salary. Now, when we're talking about life cycle of a data analyst, the first thing we mentioned was data collection. And this is the data that have been collected already. So we have gotten past that stage. After that stage is data manipulation and data cleaning. So the next thing you need to do is when you see a data, look at it. Do we have missing value? Missing value could be that, let me insert a cell here. I'll take it slowly so that we'll get it. Missing value could be that I have data here. So I have data here, then the age is nowhere to be found. Then maybe there's salary of 6,500. This can actually be seen as missing data. However, we need to understand that each time you are trying to remove missing value, you need to be very, very careful. Because if I should decide to remove this missing value, for instance, it means that for this particular row, this John Doe will be nowhere to be found. HR will be nowhere to be found. Then 6,500 would be nowhere to be found. Because if I remove this missing cell, I'm automatically removing everything that we have here. So I need to look at what do I want to achieve. If I don't need all of these ones, if age is the most important information in this particular data set, or if salary is the most important information and it's not there, then I can decide to undo that missing information as such. So the next thing we want to do now is to clean this data. And data cleaning has to do with removing duplicate values. It has to do with removing missing values. It has to do with restructuring the data. So let me do something here so that I'll show us how to remove duplicates. So now we have this. Let me duplicate this. Copy. Then paste. Let me duplicate this too. Copy. Then paste. Now, each time you want to remove duplicates, the first thing you need to look at is look at your table headers. There should be a unique identifier. And when I say unique identifier, I mean look at those cells. There should be a particular identifier that cannot appear more than once. For example, in a workplace, no two staffs will have the same customer ID or the same staff ID, and no two customers will have the same customer ID. So that being said, I know that for this ID, there must not be duplicates. If we are talking about name can be the same. The same person can be bearing, two people can be bearing John Doe, and that person bearing John. So it doesn't really matter. But for ID, staff ID, customer ID, that is a unique identifier. So I know that there shouldn't be duplicates. So if I'm able to identify that there shouldn't be duplicates, then I know that I can use this to remove my duplicates. And how do we go about that? I'll select the cell that appears as the identifier. Once I select that, all you need to do to select is come to where you have the column label, where you have A, B, C, D. If I want to select A, this column A now, I'll just bring my mouse in this direction. As soon as I have that downward, arrowhead, then I can click. Automatically, the whole of that cell will be selected. Then the next thing I'll do is I'll come to my, by the way, let me just give us an overview of this Excel sheet. We have what we call the name box. This part is the name box. All of this place is the ribbon where you have a lot of tabs: insert, page layout, formulas, data, review. So most of the things that you're going to be doing will be around here. So now I want to remove duplicates. Once I select, then I'll come to my data tab. You see that at the top. Then you see remove duplicates. Now, if I click remove duplicates, there are two things that you see: expand the selection, then continue with the current selection. Let me explain what these two will do. If you fail to expand the selection, what will happen is that Excel will only remove the duplicate for this cell you are working with, for this particular, this column, this A. But if I say expand the selection, what Excel will do is that anywhere Excel exports duplicates, automatically it will remove it across board. Remove it across board. So if, for example, 103 appears more than once, and we want to remove this as duplicate, once I select expand across board, what Excel will do is to remove all of these things. But if I fail to select expand, across, it will only remove in this particular column that we have. So then I click remove duplicates, expand selection, so remove duplicates. So if you select all the cell that you have, then you click OK. Automatically, 6 duplicates have been removed. So now we have the remaining data. That's one stage of cleaning data. So once you remove duplicates, you know that you are good to go. But don't forget, before you attempt removing duplicates, identify unique identifier that cannot be duplicates. So once you identify that, unique identifier, then we can now use that to remove our duplicate. Then aside that, I also mentioned the missing cells. The same thing applies. Look at what you are interested in. As a data analyst, you have control of the data. You know what you want to do. The data does not really have a say. It's you that decides what exactly you want to do. And it's garbage in, garbage out. If I remove a missing cell and there's one information in one of the other columns that is required, once I remove this missing cell, it will remove it across. So that's the way we clean up data. So the next thing we want to do now is we want to look at referencing, absolute and relative referencing. All of these things that we are talking about, it is not just for sake of Excel alone. We also use them in other applications that we're going to be, diving into later on. Absolute and relative referencing. What is the difference? As the name implies, absolute. It means that we want to have a particular fixed value somewhere, and we want to reference it across board. For instance, if there's a rebate or there's a discount that is meant to be applied, or there's an increase in salary, everybody has to benefit from the increment. So we want to add 1,500 naira to all the salary of these staffs. Instead of me to start adding one after the other, I will use what I call absolute referencing. And absolute means that there's a fixed thing somewhere, and I want to reference that particular cell across. Let me show you something. So, for example, we have the salaries of these staffs, and we want to increase their salary by 3,000 naira, for example, all of them. I can decide to put 3,000 in a cell like this. And my aim is to add 3,000 to John Doe's salary, 3,000 to James Smith's salary. If I want to do that, let me create another cell. For those that are new to Excel, if you want to insert a cell, the same thing that we did at that time, bring your mouse to the topmost part where you have the labels A, B, C, D, E, F. And as soon as you have your arrowhead facing downward, just left click. Once you left click, any other thing you want to do, you do it with right click. So right click, then you insert. So automatically a new cell will be inserted. So if I want to do it here, I can do it anywhere. I'll just bring my arrow, bring my mouse to the topmost part, left click, then right click. So once you right click, you click insert. So that's the way you insert. You'll be doing a lot of inserting. And let me also cite this this note of warning as well. When you are working with Excel, because a lot of us will have cause to be working with people, and they will send you files to look at. They will send you templates to look at. It is very important and expedient that you should be mindful of what you delete in Excel. Reason being that now I want to reference, I'll show you something now. I want to reference this 3,000, add 3,000 to all of them. So if I press, each time you are starting a formula in Excel, you start with equal sign. So then 4,500 plus 3,000, 7,500. I want to add it to 6,000. If I can do it again if I want, but of course I won't be doing that plus 3,000. I'll get the new salary. Now, even if I decide to replicate this, there's a way we replicate formula in Excel. Once I do for first one, do for second one, I can decide to drag it down so that I'll get it done for the other cell. So if I want to do that, I will need to select this, and to highlight, left click and drag. Then we can now, once left click and drag, we've highlighted the two. Then you can now bring your cursor to the to the edge of the cell until you have this cross sign. Then you can now drag down. Now, if you observe something, even though I have added 3,000 to the first two, this is absolute referencing. When we get to conditional statements, we are going advanced. We'll be using this absolute referencing a lot. And so it's very important that we understand what absolute referencing is talking about. So if you don't understand this now, by the time we get to conditional statements, which is more or less like the backbone of Excel, anywhere you get to, whether interview or you are fine for any job, if you can stand conditional statement very well and manipulate your way around, then at least out of a scale of 10, you can say you are 7 out of a scale of 10. So now you observe something that even though I've done for the first 2, the other ones, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. They still remain the same figure that we had earlier. What actually went wrong? This is it. Excel responds to whatever you give Excel. There's always is garbage in, garbage out. Now, I want to add 3,000 to each of them. Normally, Excel references each cell accordingly. But because nothing is present in the other cells, corresponding cells that is in front of each of those salaries that we have, nothing is present. So Excel will take them as 0 and return, it will just add 0 to it. You can see it. You can see that you still carry out that formula, but with this. And since we don't have anything in these cells, nothing will be gotten eventually. Now, how do we now use absolute reference? It could be in any dimension. It could be that there's a tax that needs to be applied to everybody. The same thing applies to everybody. So when you get to that stage, the next thing that you come to your head is absolute referencing. So how do we go about absolute referencing? What you need to do is this. Now, G2 should be our absolute reference. So in order for us to make it absolute reference, all I need to do is I'll come back. I'll say, okay, equals 4,500 plus add 3,000 to it. But then this 3,000 should be absolute value for all the cells. So in order for me to convert this to absolute value, what do? I'll just press F4 on my keyboard. Once you press F4, you can see that now we have something like $sign, $2 Anytime you see $sign, maybe you've seen it before and you don't know what it means. Anytime you see $signs as such, it means that it's an absolute reference. So that means that a particular figure somewhere has been referenced and it is applied to the other ones. So anywhere we go now, Excel will go back to that cell and pick that value. So now we have this. So if I want to drag it down, just bring your mouse to the edge, then drag it down. So you can see now we now have the kind of response that is required. That is absolute reference. I'm going straight to the point because I know that some of us must have had background in Excel, and so, but all of these things, they are basic things, but they are things that we will need when we get. And next week, we are going to be doing a lot of if statement, VLOOKUP, and pivot table, and all of those things because we don't really have much time. So that's absolute reference. Now, the second type of reference that we have is relative reference. That one, we are familiar with that one. Most of us are familiar with that one. Now, this is, let me name this new salary now. New salary. And now, I want to show you something. If I delete this cell, because I mentioned something that I should mind for what you delete in Excel. I learned this in a very hard way. I've had us to prepare reports for 4 hours. And at the end of the report, I started seeing error by the time I finished. And what was the problem was, I had gone to delete a particular sheet or a particular column that I referenced. So when that happens, if it is a column that you deleted, you are still safe. But once you delete a sheet in Excel, you can't recover it. So now look at what will happen. Let me delete this. Can you see I'm seeing href error? Maybe you've seen this kind of thing before. When you see something like this, that means that there's a reference somewhere that Excel can no longer find. And once Excel can no longer find that reference, you will see this error. So even if, let me undo. So even if I don't need this 3,000, it's not part, I just use it as calculation. I don't need it anymore. I can't delete it. So the next thing I'll do, or the best thing to do, is for me to hide this cell. And how do I hide it? Note that every time we select a column, it's always, you bring your mouse to the top. Once you have this arrow pointing downward, then you can left click. Now to hide it, just right click and hide. So with this, it won't be seen. But if I see a sheet that there's a hidden column, I will see it. But then I know that it's not part of what is required. So there's no problem. Rather than the same thing applies to sheet. If I want to hide this thing I I've hidden, all I need to do is topmost part, bring your mouse to the topmost part. When you see this, the mouse turning like a cross this way, then you can now drag it. So it will come out. Then you can see what you've hidden. So for now, I don't need this. Let me just hide that. Then the same thing applies to sheets. If I want to create another sheet in the same Excel document, I'll just come to the bottom, click on this cross icon. The reason why I'm taking it this way is because I know some of us are ahead, but even for those that are just starting out, you can still, catch up to speed. So once I click this cross icon, I can create new sheet as much as I want. Then I can also rename it if I want. Just double click on the sheet, then I'll rename. Okay. All right. So the next thing we want to do now is 1 minute. Okay, there's somebody is raising hand. Let me release the person there. Somebody is raising hand. All right. So those ones raising hand, I think Evelyn should go first.
Okay, hold on, Broadway. I wanted
thank
to know the difference of between this Excel sheet and Google sheet. And we all these symbols and shapes and formulas, can it be is it exact as it is in Excel the same way in Google Sheet? Because I've not tried Google Sheet before.
Okay, all right, thank you. So the other person raising hand, can I have you so that I will attend to the two together?
Sorry, sir. It's no question per se. I've actually
Okay.
lost our signal for
Signal,
a while.
okay. Okay.
The arms on this thing.
All right. So sorry about that, please. Okay, let me address that question. Difference between Google Sheet and Excel. The two they actually a worksheet. Now the major difference is the fact that when you are working with Google Sheets, you are working in real time. And by saying real time, it means now we get to a stage where we collaborate with people to work on a data. So if you're working with Google Sheets, I can, from my end, I can see what you are doing, edit what you are doing. You can also, make input, and I will see it from my end. As long as you grant me permission, that's one. Then secondly, the features that you have in Excel, Google Sheets has the same feature. However, there are additional features that you see on Google Sheets that Excel might not really have. You understand? So for like collaboration of a team, you can't do that in Excel. But all this thing we are doing here is also the same in Google Sheets. So it's just a slight difference that you experience in Google Sheets. So there's no cause for alarm. But the reason why I'm using Excel is because Excel is common to everybody. So it's easier for everybody to navigate compared to Google Sheets. But the same results, the same features, you also find them in Google Sheets. They might be in a different way sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So now to relative referencing. We have done absolute, and now we know what absolute reference. So now, okay, before that, you can rename this sheet the way you want. And now, if I use a particular sheet for calculation, we get to see that. I'm saying it again, be mindful of deleting anything, because once you delete a sheet, you cannot recover it anymore. For example, if I delete this sheet too, it is gone and gone forever. So instead of deleting it, what I'll do is I will hide it. So if I hide it, whoever is seeing my reports, whoever I'm sharing it with, we know that, okay, this hidden sheet is not part of it. It is probably for the sake of calculation, and then there won't be any cost. So I won't get any error message, and it will not show on the dashboard. Now for relative referencing, here is it. For instance, let me create okay. Let me create another column. Insert. So let's say now here is the salary. So let's say we have bonuses for each person based on their sales. And this person now did bonus the other person too has a different bonus at the end of the month. So let me just generate random figures for that. Now, here we have bonuses. So I now want to find out how much, maybe as an HR, I want to find out how much this first person should get at the end of the month. So all I need to do is to add the bonus with the salary. So what I need to do for that is I'll come to this to the column that I want to effect that calculation. Then, like I said, every time you are starting the calculation in Excel, it must start with equal sign. So I want to add this with this, column E plus column F. So I will select, then plus this. And once I've done one, I can actually drag the other one down. So I'll just come to the edge, drag it down. This is relative referencing. You will observe that there was no issue like the first one. Excel automatically calculated those values. So in other words, what relative referencing is doing is that it will go to corresponding, the first one, we did E2 plus F2. When you get to the next cell, Excel automatically go to E3 and F3, and then carry out that tax downward. So that's relative referencing. This is quite easy. This is what we use every time. Then we can also do multiplication if we want to. Equals bonus multiplied by say salary, depending on what you want to do. Once you do one, drag it down, and that is it. So that's just that for referencing. Now we're going to be going to using some, Excel inbuilt functions now, like the count, the average, this, and that is where the work lies. This sum and multiplication, they are quite easy. If I want to sum salary, I want to find out how much do I need to be able to pay all of these people. So I want to sum it. All I need to do is bring my cursor to where I want the sum to appear, press equal sign. There are several ways. Somebody can decide to say, okay, I want to sum of this plus, then the next one, this plus this, and so on. But come to think of it, when you have a million data, of course, you don't want to be going through these routes. So it's going to waste your time. And that is why you need this Excel inbuilt functions. So all I need to do is, if I come to just press my equal sign. If you go to Home tab, towards your extreme right, you something that is auto sum. Just click on auto sum. Click on auto sum. Automatically, once you click on auto sum, automatically Excel will pick all the figures, numeric data that you have in that column. Then you can press enter. As simple as that, you get your results. Another way is I can decide to input the function myself, sum. So once I click this the function, then select the first one. So once I select the first one, I can now drag it down. Then close the brackets. So that is it. So that's one way to navigate your way around. The major thing that we are doing here is we are looking for a very easy way to get results. I've been somewhere before that it's not about knowing what to do, it's also being able to get it done at the shortest possible time. Now, apart from the sum, another Excel function that I want us to understand is this function that is called count. For instance, you have a million data and you want to know how many of these data meet a particular condition. You want to count those number of data. If you are using maybe somebody might say I can just put a serial number. I will insert a cell here. Then I want to number it 1, 2, 3. Of course, this will also give you the number of data that you want, then you bring it down. Automatically, you can see that you have 10 data. However, there are some manipulation that you want to do in Excel. Maybe you've applied filter and not all the data sets is being captured, but you really want to know how many of those data is being captured. For instance, let me apply filter. Look at this filter. Salary. Just select the column, then go to data. This is another function, then filter. That's why I said for those ones talking about coding, all of those things, you don't really need coding for now. It's just knowing what you want to do and knowing where you need to get it done. Now click on filter. Of course, you will see this drop down. Click on drop down, add drop down. So now we'll come to data, create a filter. And this is what I just did now. Can you now see it?
Yes.
Okay. So now for those that were asking whether it's going to work on Google Sheets or is it the same as Excel? Now I'm using Google Sheets. And now you understand the reason why I said it's better we stick with Excel for now. The same thing we apply on Excel, we can also apply in Google Sheets. This is Google Sheets. Because I don't know why Excel is not showing my mouse. So the same thing that we did, come under data. In this case, you will see create filter. If you are creating a filter, let me select that column. The same way we're selecting on Excel, the same way we do it here too. Now, selecting this, come to data, then I can remove filter if I want to. But then I want to create filter. I'll select the column that I want to use in filtering, then data, create a filter. You see the same principle. The advantage Google Sheet has over Excel is the fact that Google Sheet is a live sheet. From anywhere, anybody can see anything you are doing. Just send me a link. I will see what you are doing. I can edit from my end if you grant me permission. So then from there, you can see this drop down. In Excel, it's slightly different, but it's still the same thing as drop down. If I want to format this, I can try to sort it from A to Z, meaning that it will rank it. And when Excel is sorting, it will expand across board. But in this case, I want to filter by values. You can see the filter that we have here. So if I want to unselect all the values, I will just click on this, clear all. Automatically, all of this will be removed. So if my aim is to see people that are above 30 years, I'll just select 30, 35, and so on. But just imagine if you have a lot of data, I can begin to select one after the other. And that's why custom filter will actually, aid our filtering. So filter by condition. We can filter by condition. You can see it. It's empty. It's not empty. Text contains. So there are a lot of things you can do. Some of this stuff that you are seeing here, we were not seeing it in Excel. That's why I said Google Sheets has additional features, but you are going to achieve the same thing. And whereas Google Sheets has an advantage of being safe online, your Excel anything can happen to you, can cry. So that's one. So we can filter by condition. So let's say I want to filter by greater than 30. I press enter. Automatically, so greater than 30. So once I click on filter by condition, greater than 30, yes. Greater than 30. So then you click OK. You can see it automatically. People that are above 30 years, I will see them. So this same thing, that's the same way you do it in Excel too. So if you have an Excel sheet, you can also practicalize it. I can also decide to filter by, maybe I have colors. I can format my cell with color or anything. Filter by color is there. If I have different colors, it will show me the ones that has red, the one that has yellow, and I will see all the values. I can also filter by look at it, filter by conditions greater than 30, or is between 30. Let me say between 28 and 30. So okay, you can see them. So all of these people, they are actually, people that are age 28 to 30. So I can do anything I want to do with them, get the sum of their salaries, manipulate whichever way I want to manipulate. There are two more functions that I want us to cover before we end tonight's class. And those functions are very, very important functions too. The count function. That was what brought us to this one. Because we started by saying, okay, if we want to count the number of data that we have, and we have a lot of data, somebody might be thinking that, okay, what if I apply serial number? With that, can't I get the number of people? But I've been able to show you now that even if we apply serial number, let's say we've applied filter already. If there's serial number here, let me insert serial number here. Insert. You can see in Google Sheet, insert one column left. You don't really have this in Excel. Insert one column right. It will also tell you where do you want it to be. Should it be to the left, to the right? So it has wider range of functionality. So I need it left. So let's say, let me remove the filter. The same place, data, then remove filter. So even if I put the serial number as 1, 2, then I select these 2 and drag it down. Of course, I have the serial number now. Now with this, I can easily tell that I have 10 individuals, 10 ID. But when I have a large data set, it's difficult. And if I now apply filter to this, data, create filter, then filter by condition. You can see there are a lot of conditions there. Just walk around it. Less than or equals to 30. So okay. You scroll down and click OK. Now these are the people. You now observe that this numbering will no longer be correct anymore because I've removed some, whereas there are still some still in there. So now I need to get the number of people that are less than 30 years. That's my aim. I want to get the number of people that are less than 30 years. That is where this function, count function, comes in. Let me insert a column left. So I want to count the number of people. If you have large data sets, it's easier for you this way. Number of people that are below 30 years. So all I need to do is bring in that my count function equals count. So then I'll select the cell where I want to count from. Then scroll down. What I'm doing basically is I selected the first cell. After, let me go back again. After typing, I said anytime you are working with a sheet, the first thing you do is you want to use a formula, start with equal sign, then count. So I want to count all of this. Select the first digit, then drag it down. Just left click and drag down. As soon as you drag it down, close the parentheses, then click enter. So that's what we have there. But if you look at it, it's only showing the total number of data that you have there. That's why if you remove this filter, remove the filter, data, then remove filter. The count is applicable to everything you have in that column. And that is where your if statement comes in. If I want to count those number of people, I will have to bring a conditional statement. We'll be going into that hopefully, if not tomorrow, next week. Bringing a conditional statement that if the age is less than so and so, then count those number of people. Then I'll get the return. But the first thing you need to have in your head is, how do you apply this count? Just type count, select the first cell, and drag it down. What this is telling you is that whenever you apply a formula to a column, even if there's a filter in that column, and you drag down that formula across board, the exact formula, whether count or whatever you are doing, will disregard the filter, because those data they actually there, but just that they are hidden. That's the message here. Even if there's a filter and you apply, so because if you have a lot of data now, you might not really observe this. So even if there's a filter there and you want to count, as long as you are dragging it across the whole of the cell, Excel will disregard the filter unless we use the conditional statement. So that's the first thing. So count is easy to use. Just follow that syntax. But let me apply this count. I want to apply the same count. I want to apply it to this name column. So the same thing I will do equals count. Then let me select the column. Then I will drag it down. Two ways to drag down: just left click and drag down. Then close the parenthesis. Another way you can use to drag down is once I type my count. Once I type my count, I'll select the first cell. I want to use the name now. Then instead of dragging down, I can just hold Shift on my keyboard, then the arrow key. Arrow. If you look at your keyboard, there's a part where you have 4 arrows, one pointing upward, one pointing downward, one to the right, one to the left. So I'll press the one pointing downward. So once all the cell is covered, then I can now close the parentheses. You observe that it returns 0. The same count that we applied to this cell, we also apply the same count to this particular cell where we have name. One return the number of people that we have actually, which is 10. The other one is returning 0. Why? The reason is simple. Count is only applicable for numeric values. Count is only applicable for numeric values. So if your interest is to get the count of numeric value, then you are good to go with count. But if it is string like this, name, department, count will not work. And there's a function that we can use in place of count. It's just a slight different. We call it count A. Count A. Then we press enter. You can see it. So count A will be applicable to column that is non-numeric in nature. This same thing that we are doing here is also, useful in Excel. It's the same thing, the same function. So, but the only difference is that the way as I'm working here now, if I share this document with you, you can also be working there too on the same Excel document, and we both be safe, depending on the kind of right and privilege that I'm giving you. So that's for count. So count is for numeric. Count A will be applicable for you to get the number of string that you have in a particular column. Then we can use function like average. Of course, average is for numeric values. So average of this. Average is the same thing as mean. Sum all of those things divided by number of occurrences. So select one. I'll hold down my shift, then press down. So it will return the average. I want to introduce just a small thing so that at least we understand how this thing link up together. The most important, let me say, one of the most important tools that you ever use in Excel or in a sheet is your conditional. So if you can manipulate those things, you will get a lot of results. Now, the if statement, that should be the last so that I'll give room for us to ask questions. The if statement, that's a conditional statement. If age is less than 30 years, I want to know the sum of the salary of people that are less than 30 years. I want to know the sum of the salary of people that are less than 30 years. So all I need to use is, I will use the conditional statement. So how do I achieve that? Equal sign. If, of course, you know that is an inbuilt function. If age, what did I do? I only clicked. I brought my mouse to the top, then left click to select. So I can say if age, or before the if statement, there's something I missed. Like I forgot to mention it. While cleaning data, it is possible that we have error values. Let's say that value does not exist. For instance, my interest is to sum. Let me show you that so that I don't forget that too. My interest is to sum bonus plus salary. Now, in the process of entering the figures, let's say we forgot to enter the bonus for this person. We now put X. And our aim is to sum bonus with salary. So all we need to do is relative reference equals this plus this. Then we can now drag all of these things down. So let's drag it down. Now, you can see that we have error value here. There are times that you might encounter this kind of error. Maybe you don't have the figure, or the way they collected the data, there was error in the data. And of course, with this error value, there's no calculation I can do with this error anymore. It will always give me error. Now, how do I undo this? How do I undo this? So all I need to do is we need to use the conditional statement. If. So if, let me remove this. So if, so it could be if error or if not available. So if not available or if error. So let me choose if error. If error, then you should return what? I want to sum this plus this. Or if error, it should return, let's say 0. You see what will happen now. So what did I do? I used the same thing that we are doing here is also applicable in Excel. In order for me to manage that error, I can't remove this missing cell, because if I remove this missing cell, this person has an age. This person is also a staff. It could be that maybe this person does not have any bonus, so mistakenly they entered a wrong thing. So if you have a data set of 1 million or thereabouts, it might be difficult for you to spot where that error is coming from. Just observe that your calculation is giving you error. Now, how do you manage that? I've introduced you to that if condition now. So if error, that's the first thing. What I want to do is sum these two. However, if there's error, give me 0. That's the meaning of this statement. If I put a string there, let's say not available. You observe I did something. I put it in double quote. Anytime I want to return a string, as long as it's not a numeric value, what we do in Excel is we put in double quote. So anywhere it sees that, it will just turn it to NA. So if I drag this down now, instead of 0, this is what I will say. So whatever you want it to be, you can always put it in here. So that's the way you undo, because we talked about data manipulation. Thank God I didn't forget that. Talk about data manipulation of those things. Apart from if error, there are some that it could be a missing value, and you'll be saying NA not available as the result. Let's say there's a missing value here, and you are seeing NA instead of if error. Same thing applies. I can also use if not available. So there's also if NA too. You can see if NA. And I'll click enter. So the same thing applies. So I think I should give room to questions. So I'll stop there for tonight. So if you have any question, you can raise your design. Okay. Mr. Sunday, you can go ahead.
Well done, sir.
Thank you very much.
My first question before I make a request.
Okay.
If age is less than you are not done with it. If age is less than 30 years.
Can you please pick up a little? I'm struggling to hear you.
My question, or you're trying to say age is less than 30 years.
It what?
Age is less than 30 years before you move to the issue of error.
Yes. Yeah, what's the question? I didn't get the question.
If age is less than 30 years, you wanted to talk about that.
Okay. Let me do that. That's your question, right?
What's it called? The absolute reference. I missed out the other time.
Okay. All right. So let me go through that again. So if age is less than 30 years, we want to filter people that has age less than 30 years. So all we need to do is the first thing. Is anybody talking? Okay, so the first thing is bring your mouse to the topmost part of the column, then left click. So if, for example, it's age you want to filter, so just left click. Let me remove the filter first. So left click. Once you left click, then come to the top, click on data, then data, then click on create a filter. Then after you must have created a filter, you see a drop down. So click on this drop down. Then you see a lot of options there. Filter by values, filter by condition. So if you are filtering by value, that means that you want to be checking the values and you filter. But by condition is easier for me. So filter by condition. Once I click this drop down, filter by condition, automatically this will pop up, this cell will pop up. Then you see this arrow up and arrow down. Click on it. So you can choose whatever filter we want. In this case, we want to check ages that are less than 30. So then we can now go ahead and say less than 30. Less than 30. So once you do that, just scroll down to the bottom and click OK. Automatically you see those ones that are less than 30. Now another thing you can do here is if I want to get the sum of their salary, I don't need to use any formula. After filtering, the next thing I'll do is I'll come to the salary column, click on that salary column, then left click and drag it down. Once you left click and drag it down, this same thing applies on all kinds of sheets, including Excel. Once you left click and drag it down, at the bottom, you will see the sum there, 26,200. So you can now say that, okay, people that are age 28 to 30, the sum of their salary is 26,200. So that's basically, so you can do and undo with the filter. You can check for greater than, you can check between 28 and 30. So if I go back, filter by condition. Let me say between 28 and 30. Then I'll click OK. So automatically I will see the number. So I can also find the sum. Click on the first one and drag down to 28. So that's the sum of their salary. So I think that answers your question. So any other question before we call it a wrap?
Sorry, I want to react to the last your last explanation. Now, what if we have about 1 million rows?
Okay.
Are we also going to drag till the last row? Do you get my request?
Okay, to get the number of
Now,
I mean the sum, right?
now, yeah, now what we have here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. Now, what if we have 1 million rows? Are we going to do that to get this value to get this sum of? You get my question?
I understand the
Any
question.
other way
I think-
to probably do it? Maybe there's a formula or something. I don't know.
yes, there is.
Okay.
I did mention something. In subsequent classes, we are going to be doing conditional statements. If you have 1 million rows, I will not drag. I will not drag. So what I will do is I will use conditional statements. And that statement, for those that are quite inquisitive, you can also find out. I can use some if statements.
Yeah.
I showed one conditional statement the other time. If error, then return this. Now in that case, what I need is some if. And what is my sum? What is it going to do? I think maybe tomorrow we should dive into conditional statement. Some if age is between 28 and 30, some their salary. I will get the results in just 1 second. So I don't need to drag anything. So all I just need to do is just create a column. I know that's what I want to do. Then I will apply my there's a conditional statement called some if. But because this one is small data, that's why it's easier for you to say you want to do it. So you use some if. So some if this, let's say it's less than 30, then what do you want to sum? Sum the salary. So that's what we do. And you get the result in 1 second. So no need of dragging. But tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, we're going to be working on a much larger data set than this. So that we get used to working the smart way. And we'll get our result as soon as possible. So I think that should be the last question. So please, okay, Sagun, please go ahead. Sagun, go ahead. Sagun, your hand is up. Please go ahead. I guess that should be a mistake. So please, all right, Oluwaseyi Sunday, go ahead.
The absolute reference, just
Yes. You need a recap?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So please, I want to
Good evening, sir.
appeal to us.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, go ahead.
Please, how do you generate your data, sir?
Okay, I'll tell you how I generated my data. Okay. All right, so let me start with the last question. Now, this data that we're working on is an arbitrary data, which it was generated. It was the data gotten online. That's why I say it's arbitrary. The other one that we have in the classroom that we're working with is a live data. And one benefit of having this community is that we have real life data that we can share and work on real life situation and insights. So from there, we understand how to picture what is happening in real life setting. But this one is just an arbitrary data just to drive home the point. As soon as we dive into the real data that we are working with, which is already on the classroom, by now it would have dropped by now. So you can go there and download all of those data sets. Then you understand what it means to have voluminous data. I think one of the data should be at least about 1,000 data or so. So imagine you want to get insight from 1,000 data. You need to be able to manipulate and understand what you need to do. Just imagine you want to get sum of salary of people that are between this particular age from 1,000 data. That's even a small data set. There was one that I worked on some time ago, 100,000 or thereabouts. So if his volumes are such, that's why all of these formulas we aid what we are doing. So this one is just an arbitrary data. Then for the absolute reference, our aim is to add, for instance, let's say to their salary, there's a one-time bonus for every staff. And that one-time bonus is 5,000, which is to be paid together with their salary. This absolute reference is quite important because we get to a stage where we want to use conditional statements, if then statement. So if age is greater than 30, for instance, if I want to use age greater than 30 as a conditional statement, all I need to do is use absolute reference, and all the ages of individual staffs will be with reference to that 30. That's why absolute reference is actually important. So let me explain absolute reference again. So if I want to add 3,000 naira, that's one-time bonus to all of these salaries, one after the other. So I just put my 3,000 here. Let me create another cell. Then equals salary, right, plus 3,000. I already have 7,500. Then my aim is to, make this. I want this to apply to all the other cells. But you observe that even if I drag this down, the other cell will remain the same. This is because generally Excel will reference corresponding cells. So which means that if my sum is in cell G4, Excel will go and reference F4 and J4, since those are the two columns I'm working with. Because look at it now, for this first one, I'm working with F and J. J3 plus F3 will give me the first result. For the next one, Excel will reference corresponding cells. So to be looking for values in F3 and also J3. So the ability not to see any value in J3, Excel will just see it as 0 and return. If you look at it, there are formulas here too, but there's nothing here. That's why you are getting this. So if my aim is to add this 3,000 to all of them, then the knowledge of absolute reference then comes in. So then all I need to do is, once I select the first cell, which is J3, then plus 3,000. So then I'll just press F4 on a Windows OS. I believe most of us are using Windows here. So once I press that F4, it automatically turns that particular cell to reference. So I'm telling Excel that, or I'm telling the sheet, because I'm using Google Sheet, I'm telling the sheet that anything you are doing for this column, make your reference, reference that particular column, F3. So all of them will take their reference from 3,000. So once I press enter, then I can now drag this down. I will now see that it will be applicable to all of them. So that's absolute reference. This one is quite important. Finally, before we call it a wrap, there's something we call a name box, and this is where we have name box. On Excel, it's the same too. What does this name box do? Some of us must have heard about VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, and all of those things. Those things, they might sound so ambiguous, but the application is quite easy. It's quite easy. And I want to also state this, that this live session is a good one, but the bulk of the work, I will be there to always attend to whatever issue is. The bulk of the work lies on us sitting down and practicing these things. If you go to the classroom now, you would have seen the weekly project that we have. We can start working on them in earnest. So download those things. If there's any issue, reach out. We will always find a way of ensuring that you get value. Now this name box, we need it when we get to VLOOKUP. So, and what does it do? I can decide to name this sheet so that anywhere I want to make reference to anything on this sheet, once I call that particular name, except from any sheet, Excel can go there and find that value. So how do I go about it? On your sheet, just bring your mouse to the left, where you see an alphabet. It depends on where your cursor is. Like A1, you see another, just this part. I'm sure you can see my mouse. So once you get there, before you even do anything there, bring your mouse to the top of the sheet, just underneath that name box. This is the name box, just underneath the name box. So bring your mouse there, then click. Clicking means that we are selecting the whole of the sheet. And once you select the whole of the sheet, it will show a name as such. Then I can now name it anytime I want. So let me say VLOOKUP, for example. Then press enter. Please note, in your name box, space is not allowed. So any name you want to use, it has to be together. So anywhere I call VLOOKUP, don't let me use VLOOKUP because it's an input function. Let me use another thing. Let me say name. So anywhere I call this, I mention name. As far as this sheet is concerned, I want to find a value in name sheet. Excel will come to this sheet and find that value. So that's it. That's it. So it's quite important so that when we start making reference to this, we will understand why we are doing what we are doing. So I think that's fair enough. So if that's the last question, I want to first and foremost, I want to okay, somebody does it again.
Yeah,
if
you
they go-
said the weekly project is open, but initially you said till tomorrow before it will be open. Is it that
don't worry,
from
you drop it. It will drop.
Friday?
It will drop after this class.
Okay.
We drop because normally on Google Classroom we can program and schedule when we want a particular assignment to drop. But
Okay.
after this class it will drop. You get to go to access.
But that would be after tomorrow class, then the project will start from next week to weekend, right?
Yes. So after tomorrow's class, then the submission will now be the Wednesday after next week, Wednesday. That will be the deadline for submission.
Okay.
So the bottom line is, let's get that real life data. We have the week 1 project questions.
How are we going to get the real life data? How are we getting the real life data?
It's in the classroom.
You're going to share it. Okay.
It's in the classroom. Everything's in the classroom. It's there already, but you drop after this class.
Okay.
The data set is in the class already. So after this class, you get to see it.
Okay.
Because I want to also apologize for the initial glitch that we experienced. It was a lot of efforts actually went into this, but thank God we're able to overcome all of these things. And I'm still giving my word and my commitment together with the team that we ensure we get more than enough value. That's just the truth. We give all it takes, we put all effort, and we ensure that value is being gotten on this platform. And our sole aim is not just having to learn or something. We want to also network among ourselves. I am connected to network of people. You are connected to network of people, and by so doing, we can actually bring in all of those networks together and to work in our favor. The last online meetup that we did, it was just a networking like this. I've never met the facilitator in person before, and that was how we teamed up, and the rest is history. And also, if you are not on LinkedIn yet and you are looking to build a professional portfolio, I think you are not ready to start. LinkedIn is a platform where professionals, it's not meant for jamborees, it's a platform for professionals. Some of us have gone through our LinkedIn profile, we have about 45 connections. It's a good way to start. But if we can bring our networks together, before you know it, you start getting a lot of impression on LinkedIn. So please, I want to also appeal that the same link that we use today will be the same link that we'll be using tomorrow, unless otherwise stated. So let's come in as and when due. By 6 o'clock, we get started, and God helping us, by 8 o'clock, we would have been able to conclude. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining this evening. And I want to appreciate you for coming and also for trusting us enough. Thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. And we're not taking it for granted. And we'll see you tomorrow. By God's grace.
Thank you
very
too.
much.
All right. Very nice.